There's a harsh paradox in life that only a few folks really get before it's way too late. We grow up being taught that if we're kind, open, vulnerable, and emotionally available, people will love us more, protect us more, and understand us better. But more often than not, life throws a different lesson our way. Instead of getting loved, we start to feel like we're just taken for granted. Instead of being protected, we get left out in the cold and exposed. Instead of being understood, people tend to judge us the wrong way. That's the tough reality we have to face from the start. You try to help others by giving them a piece of yourself, your soul, even but end up getting hurt by those very same people you wanted to save. And yet, in the darkest moments of that pain, Carl Jung offers us a guiding light, a deep psychological and spiritual truth that can change everything. Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Just a simple sentence, but one that can set you free because it shows you that your real power isn't in how others treat you, but in how you respond to your awareness, your choices, and your ability to integrate what happens into your life. This isn't surface-level advice about self-care or quick fixes. It's about a profound inner transformation rooted in Jung's core teachings: shadow work, individuation, and healing the wounds you carry. When you understand these concepts, nothing and nobody will have the same power to hurt you ever again, because pain will no longer confuse or control you. Instead, it will serve as your teacher. People will no longer hold power over you. They'll only reveal who you are deep down. Here's the brutal truth Jung spent an entire lifetime exploring. The world is a mirror showing us what we haven't yet accepted about ourselves. That's exactly why people can hurt us so easily, because we're still running from parts of ourselves we refuse to face. We're more focused on being liked than being authentic. So, let's go a little deeper. We've all experienced betrayal, maybe from a lover, a parent, a best friend. That injury was so raw it shattered our trust in others and even in ourselves. But Jung would ask, what part of you ignored the red flags? What part of you needed their love so badly that you abandoned your own intuition? That's where your freedom begins. This isn't about building fake walls or becoming cold-hearted. It's about establishing a solid inner foundation so no external storm can ever break you again. Jung believed that true healing starts the moment we're honest about our inner contradictions, the light and the dark, the strength and the fears, logic and emotion all at once. When you fully accept your true self, you stop relying on the world to define you and stop giving others the power to validate your worth. That's when something remarkable happens to you: become unshakable. I'm about to break down 6 powerful truths from Carl Jung's wisdom that will challenge how you see yourself, how conditioned reactions to pain keep you stuck, and how you can finally rise above it all. Stick with me through this whole video, and I guarantee your pain will start to make sense. From that understanding, you'll find your strength again. And don't forget, like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, don't skip a second of what I'm about to say. Every moment is vital. All right, let's jump into your transformation. Number 1, you're most hurt by what you haven't yet owned. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's the root of why we keep getting pushed into the same painful cycles with familiar people. It's not just about what others are doing to us. It's also about the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. Honestly, you're not just hurt by what others do, you are also wounded by your own unconscious expectations, projections, and buried feelings. Think about if you ever met someone who triggered a strong reaction in you, maybe because they seemed overly confident, cold, or indifferent. They probably didn't even do anything, but just their presence made something painful inside you flare up. Jung would say that person hit a trigger, a shadow part of you that you've disowned or ignored. The truth is, people mirror the parts of us that we're still uncomfortable with. If you're overly sensitive to rejection, it's likely because you haven't healed the part of you that believes you're unworthy unless accepted. If controlling folks come into your life, it's probably because you haven't stepped fully into your own power yet. You get hurt because your unconscious wounds are still open. You're reacting to what they touch inside you. It's not your fault. We've all been conditioned to hide our pain, to put on a brave face, to pretend we're strong. But Jung teaches us that healing comes from wholeness, not perfection. That means admitting your fears, facing your triggers, and saying, yes, this hurt me, but I see the part of me that allowed it. That's not weakness, that's true power. For example, let's say a man grew up with distant, emotionally unavailable parents. He learns early that love is earned through constant performance and suppressing his needs. Then, as an adult, he keeps attracting partners who are emotionally distant. He keeps giving and trying only to feel abandoned every time. Why? Because deep down, his unconscious belief is, I must overgive to be loved. Until he faces that belief, he'll keep suffering under the illusion of fate. But once he makes this unconscious pattern conscious, something shifts. He stops blaming the world and begins reclaiming his power. He realizes that pain isn't just punishment, it's a teacher. The first step is to observe your emotional reactions without judging. Every strong feeling is a message from your subconscious. Next, journal your triggers. Ask yourself, what does this remind me of from my past? Then, talk to the part of you that's afraid, angry, or ashamed. Give it a voice. That inner work is tough, but it shatters illusions. When you do it, people lose their ability to manipulate you with guilt, rejection, or blame because you've seen inside yourself. Remember, you're hurt the most by what you haven't yet owned. Own it and you'll become immune to it. Number 2. People can only hurt you through unresolved wounds you refuse to heal. There's a pattern nearly everyone experiences but few recognize. The same type of person repeatedly hurts you. Maybe a controlling partner, a jealous friend, an emotionally distant parent. Different faces, same result. You end up feeling like you're not enough. Jung said that this isn't just bad luck, it's your unresolved emotional wounds calling out for attention. The scariest thing is to accept yourself fully. Jung believed that's where true healing begins, when you stop trying to change others and start taking complete responsibility for your wounds. For instance, if you have a deep fear of abandonment, it probably stems from childhood and environment where love was inconsistent, or you learned that love must be earned. Now, as an adult, a simple silence or delayed response can send you into an emotional panic, interpreting it as rejection. You chase people who are distant, tolerate crumbs, constantly prove your worth. But that's not love, that's your emotional survival mode. When someone pulls away, it doesn't just hurt in the moment. It stirs up every unhealed piece of your past. You're not really upset with them, you're triggered by your own wound. Until you heal that original pain, you'll keep mistaking temporary setbacks for permanent damage. Jung explains this well. What you resist persists. What you look at and face dissolves. You're meant to stop dodging triggers, start integrating them. When you do, those people who once had the power to destroy your confidence will lose their hold because you've faced your inner truth. The key: observe your triggers, trace them back to the first time you felt that way, and reclaim your story. Ask yourself, what do I need to believe now to feel whole? Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about remembering who you were before the pain and choosing to grow from it. Most people stay stuck because they try to protect their wounds instead of healing them. They become guarded, sarcastic, distant, avoiding vulnerability. But below all that armor is a scared child, still waiting for someone who won't leave. When you finally become that protector of your own heart, you stop bleeding on people who never really cut you. That's real power. Number 3. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Jung believed in this idea of inner magnetism, that your subconscious beliefs, traumas, and unresolved emotions emit a certain energy that pulls similar energies toward you. So if you're constantly craving peace but feeling chaos, or longing for loyalty but only meeting betrayal, it's not a coincidence. The problem is not outside, it's inside. If you feel unworthy, unlovable, or chaotic on the inside, that's what naturally attracts similar circumstances. For example, Imagine a woman who grew up with an emotionally distant father. She learned to tie her worth to how much she can earn or perform. Now, despite her conscious desire for a warm, loving partner, she keeps falling for emotionally unavailable men because, deep down, her unconscious still seeks familiar pain, not peace. Pain can become home if you've lived in it long enough. Jung warned us that until you make the unconscious conscious, you keep attracting what's familiar even if it's toxic because that's what your inner blueprints told you to expect. Once you change your internal beliefs and see your value differently, the outer world shifts. If you start to value your voice and set boundaries, manipulative people will sense they can't control you anymore. If you stand firm and own your worth, toxic lovers will lose their grip because your vibration has changed. Whether you call it psychology or energy, the law is the same. You attract what you are, not what you want. So the real question isn't why these things happen, it's what part of you is still aligned with the pain you haven't healed. Imagine that woman and her pattern. No matter how much she wishes for love, her unconscious blueprint pulls her back into familiar pain. The only way to truly change is to work on what's happening inside. When you shift your inner state, the outside begins to respond differently. Be it your words, your boundaries, or your confidence, everything shifts. That's why no affirmation, no vision board, no positive thinking alone can change your life unless you first do the inner work to change your emotional identity. To do that, start by recognizing your patterns. How do you normally respond to rejection, loneliness, or conflict? Next, stop romanticizing struggle. Stop telling yourself that pain is noble or growth only happens through suffering. Instead, rebuild your identity with affirmations like, I am worthy of respect, I am allowed to feel safe, and I have the power to walk away. Jung's message isn't about transforming into someone else. It's about becoming whole. When you do, you stop needing others to define you. You stop seeking approval and start owning your worth. That's when you become unshakable and others will respond to that strength. Number 4. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be whole. People-pleasing is what destroys your peace because it causes you to abandon your authentic self just so others will accept you. Jung said it plainly, the greatest gift in life is to become who you truly are. The more real you become, the fewer people will like you, and that's perfectly okay. Those who do aren't necessarily aligned with your truth. When you start to live sincerely, you'll notice some folks drift away. But they aren't really losses or misalignments. Open yourself up and understand. You weren't born to be agreeable at the cost of losing yourself. You weren't created to shrink so others can seem bigger. You weren't put here to betray your needs just to avoid rejection. But early on, we learn that acceptance equals safety. A child learns to be good out of fear of losing love. A teenager masks feelings to avoid mockery. An adult stays silent in toxic relationships to keep the peace. And this, Jung would say, is a survival strategy, what he called fragmentation. Every time you silence your truth for approval, you're teaching yourself that your needs are dangerous, that your voice is a threat, that your authenticity is a risk. But your real safety lies in being whole. When you own your truth, stop wearing masks and accept your imperfections, you become powerful in a way no superficial validation can touch. The paradox. The more whole you are, the more rejection you might face at first. Why? Because people accustomed to controlling your compliance may feel threatened by your boundaries. They'll call you cold, selfish, or changed. But Jung reminds us that that's not your burden to carry. The most terrifying thing in life is to accept yourself fully. And when you do, others' reactions become their problem, not yours. That's why chasing approval is a losing game. Once you say no without guilt, walk away from draining relationships, and stop trying to explain your worth to people who won't listen, you'll stop feeling the sting of rejection because you won't be rejecting yourself anymore. To become more whole, try this. Name those masks. Who do you become around different people? Do you switch between helper, tough one, joker? Then, practice small acts of honesty. Say, no, I don't agree, or no, I'm not comfortable with that. Start journaling your truths. What did you want to say but held back? Over time, this honesty will solidify into real change. Jung believed that wholeness isn't about perfection or popularity, it's about deep honesty. You may lose some people along the way, but you'll find yourself, and that's the real treasure. Number 5. Once you understand your shadow, no one can manipulate you. Jung knew something crucial that many still find unsettling. Your biggest blind spot, your greatest vulnerability, is your shadow, hidden parts of yourself you deny, reject, or suppress. That's where your fears, insecurities, desires, and instinctive urges hide, often buried so deep you're ashamed to admit they exist. Here's the paradox: what you refuse to face in yourself will always be used against you, especially by manipulators. They can't control your strengths, they target your weaknesses. People are experts at sensing what you're avoiding. Jung called the shadow those unconscious elements you deny because they're inconvenient or shameful. But until you bring them into the light, they'll always be used as weapons against you. Think of it this way. If someone sees you crave approval and feeds on your guilt or low self-esteem, they'll manipulate you using those very feelings. They might withhold affection, guilt-trip you, or gaslight you all to control your internal world. That's emotional warfare and Jung's advice. The only way out is to know yourself deeply. When you become aware of your shadow, those manipulators lose their leverage because you no longer need their approval to feel okay. Here's a real-life example. Say you have a deep fear of abandonment. Someone who wants to control you might sense this and create drama, threaten to leave, or ghost you after fights. They're not indecisive, they're exploiting your fear. If that terror is unconscious, you'll do anything to keep them, apologize when you've done nothing wrong, chase after them, beg for peace. But if you face that fear consciously, worked on it, and integrated it into your self-understanding, you'll respond differently. You'll say, if you want to leave, go. I won't beg for a place in my own life where I'm disrespected. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The darkness isn't evil, it's just unintegrated. Until you bring it into awareness, others will use it to manipulate, distort, and drain your energy. So, how do you start working with your shadow? First, notice your triggers, what makes you overreact or feel powerless. Second, ask yourself, what am I trying to hide? Is it anger, jealousy, or the need to be loved? Bring that to light. Third, talk to your shadow, don't shame it, listen to it. Ask, what are you afraid of? What do you need from me now? Become your own inner guardian. When you learn how to stand in your own darkness, no one can use it against you anymore. You become immune to guilt trips, passive aggression, love bombing, silent treatments. Those old weapons fall flat because you know your truth. You've reclaimed your shadow. That's where real strength lies, mastering both the light and the dark. Number 6. Pain loses its power when you change its meaning. There's one truth that can completely shift how you relate to suffering. Pain itself isn't what destroys you, it's what you make of it. Carl Jung believed that the suffering we try to avoid is often the very key to our growth. He said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Most people don't realize this. They numb, escape, or stay stuck in dead relationships because they're afraid of loneliness. They tolerate disrespect because conflict feels too threatening. They distract themselves from their truth using screens, substances, or superficial pleasures. But Jung warned, pain doesn't just go away by pretending it's not there. It multiplies. For example, someone gets heartbroken, trust is shattered, and a deep wound is left. That pain isn't just emotional, it's a message. But if you attach the wrong meaning, thinking, I'm not enough, or I'll always be abandoned, you start to shape your identity around that wound. You build your future based on trauma, closing yourself off, becoming distrustful. But what if you reframe that pain? What if you tell yourself, this isn't proof I'm unlovable, it's proof that I dared to love? Their betrayal isn't a sign of weakness, it's an opportunity to grow wiser. The heartbreak didn't break you, it cracked you open for something better to emerge. Suddenly, that pain becomes sacred, something to rise from, not bury. Jung's words resonate. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Pain shows us where we've been asleep, where we ignored red flags, where we overgave, where we settled instead of soaring. To truly learn from pain, you have to face it directly. Say, yes, this hurt me, but it doesn't define me, it refines me. Start by naming the lesson, instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what did this teach me about myself? Honor the survivor part of you that's still standing, still learning. Remember, you didn't fail, you evolved. You create from your pain, right? Speak, help others. Let your suffering become part of your purpose. The goal isn't to live a pain-free life, that's not real. It's to feel pain without bitterness, to experience disappointment without closing your heart, and to get broken without staying broken. Because pain only controls those who refuse to confront it. When you name it, feel it, and transform it, it becomes your teacher, not your prison. Jung never handed us comforting leash, handed us truth that sets us free. He said, the wounds will come, but they won't control you once you own them. That's the deepest truth most people never learn. They let others' opinions define them, shrink from rejection, and chase superficial approval to feel safe. But real safety isn't something others give you. It's something you build from within by knowing your shadow, healing your wounds, owning your story. When you do that, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing others and start attracting peace. You stop fearing loneliness and begin enjoying your own company. You're no longer unheard or invisible because the world hasn't changed, you have. This is your true power. Remember it daily. You're not broken, you're becoming whole. You're not weak, you're becoming aware. You're not lost, you're remembering who you truly are. Jung's work wasn't about perfection, it was about the completeness of your soul. He said, I'd rather be whole than good. So move forward not with fear but with clarity. Now that you understand the secret, once you learn to face your wounds, master your shadow, and define your worth, nobody and nothing will ever hurt you the same way again. Not because they changed, but because you did. Drop this in the comments. Say, I choose healing, wholeness, and power. No one can take that away from me. If this message resonated with you, if it gave you strength, insight, or healing, don't forget to like, comment, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more honest, empowering content. Most importantly, keep choosing yourself.